This is Joshua Hart here for Second Out. Delighted to be joined by Gareth A Davies here over Zoom. Gareth, it's not as busy a week in boxing this week, but still a lot to talk about. But how is everything, first of all? You all good?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Never say that because the minute you say that it's not too busy in boxing, suddenly there's a million stories and the whole thing collapses and it's expect the unexpected in boxing. But I'm very well. How are you?
I'm very good, Gareth. All the better for being joined by yourself. There's still a lot to go into today, though. If we cast our minds back to Saturday night in Scotland, we saw the homecoming for Josh Taylor, where Echoesman ripped up the script ultimately, securing a unanimous decision victory. What were your thoughts on the fight?
Well, I mean, Josh Taylor was fantastic for the first half of the fight and controlled the action without really putting a serious dent in Essuman. And Essuman took over. I had him winning 7 rounds to 5, taking the last 6 rounds. It was competitive, but my feeling was that the visits to the well that Josh Taylor's been so many times, the brilliance he showed between 2018 and 2022, his truly purple patch, through Ryan Martin, Victor Postol, Ivan Baranchyk. Who am I missing out? So Regis Prograde, Jose Benavides, Ramirez, sorry. When he took the undisputed title, I've probably missed one person out there, but he had an incredible run. Victor Postol as well, of course, who'd only, I think, who'd was one of them at Postol, I think, had lost to Terence Crawford, hadn't he? So it was an incredible performance for those 4 years. But I just looking at him, even though he looked fuller in the face and he looked better physically with the extra 7 pounds, for me, and I've known Josh a really long time, he's not what he was. He may not want to retire straight away, but I think the idea of winning world titles at welterweight aren't there anymore. Not for me to retire him, but I think he's very close to the end.
If Josh Taylor is to continue, who would you like to see him face next? What fights still appeal to you?
Well, I mean, I was hoping if he won, a Conor Benn fight in Scotland would have been enormous. Just the excitement of it. But I just don't think coming off that loss, that there aren't obvious opponents for him. Potentially Jack Catterall, but let's see what happens with Jack Catterall against Harlem Eubank. It's always difficult to match people after a loss, and it wasn't a loss in which he was badly knocked out, or it just he wasn't the Josh we're used to seeing. And if you look at it, if you take the first Jack Catterall fight as a loss that he obviously won on the cards controversially a couple of years ago, Josh has now lost 4 in a row. Two to Catterall, one to Tio Lopez, who was very kind to him and very encouraging in the build up to the fight. I wonder if you noticed that. Said he was the toughest fight he'd ever had. And also this loss now to Echoesman, who, again, to give Echoesman his props, he's not, well, certainly hasn't proved it yet at the age of 36 that he's at the level that Josh Taylor's competed at. So there's only a chink of light in the door for me. Josh is an incredible champion. Let's rubber stamp this. Let's underline it. Let's put it in bold. The first British fighter, the first Scottish fighter to win an undisputed belt in the undisputed title in the four belt era. He did it on a magnificent run. I was very privileged to cover a lot of those fights and be around Josh a lot, even when he won the Commonwealth Gold 11 years ago at the SSE Hydro. And the tears and angst that he had when he didn't make it to a medal at the Olympics in 2012, when he was one of our great prospects then as well for a medal. It's been a long and an illustrious career, both amateur and professional. And had he become a two-weight world champion, he would have gone into the pantheon of the all-time British greats. There was that time between 2018, Josh, and 2022 when he was in the top 10 pound for pound rankings of the Ring magazine, was a time when I think he was at 5 or 6. I think he was at 5 or 6 when he fought Jack Catterall the first time. Puts him up there as one of the great box fighters that we've ever produced on these shores.
Absolutely. Just quickly on Echo Essuman, world title next for him now, or a step closer in that direction?
Yeah, I think they'll try and find a world title for him. I think is he 4 with the WBO? Ranked
Yeah.
4, I think, with the WBO. So massive opportunities for him. He's laying weight a very long time. I'm just looking at the rankings here, actually. Just bear with me one tick. He's been up there, and when you think he lost to Harry Scarf and how he's come on afterwards, but in many ways, I think he exposed that Joshua has been to the well, and that Josh has been to the well. Yeah, Echo's 5 with the WBO. Brian Norman's the champion, obviously. So if they can make that fight for him, great. But it was a great performance by Echo. And he did the engine did what he said he was going to do, and that's exactly what happened. His engine carried him through, and unexposed. I don't mean exposed in a negative sense, but exposed the frailties of Josh Taylor now in this era of his career.
Just looking at the undercard, we saw the return of heavyweight sensation now. I'd say, I guess you have to say, Moses Itauma, another second round stoppage. It's almost feel like a Moses Itauma fight night you expect an early night now. Again, were you just as impressed as you were last time with Moses?
I think Dempsey McKean was a more impressive performance. I expected him to handle Mike Balogun very handily, which he did. He didn't waste any time. He boxed well. He moved well. He picked his punches. He's an extraordinary talent. For a huge man, he's light on his feet. He's very fast. The hands are fast. Like everyone else in the game on the inside says about him, what we need to find out about is what he's like when he's under pressure, when he's been hit, when he's been rattled a little bit, or even a lot by an opponent, and that's what we look forward to. If he's going to face Otto Valin next, great. I'm hearing it could be on the undercard on July the 19th with Usyk and Dubois. So if that's the case, then fantastic. But onwards and upwards.
So you think Otto Valin could be next? Is that
I
the?
think there's talk of Otto Valin next, yeah, potentially.
How do you think he'd get on again? Do you think that would be the toughest fight of his career, or do you feel that could go in
Well,
this?
Valin's the most experienced fighter of his career by a long way. I mean, obviously he's been in with Tyson Fury, he's been with Derek Chisora, he's been in with who am I forgetting? Anthony Joshua, and they've all dealt with him, haven't they? So it's a good opponent, but I just think they're going to keep finding these kind of opponents. I think he'll continue to win. He may have a setback in the career. Once the setback comes, they'll have to rebuild if it does. But we may find that he's doing the same until he's in with a top 10 guy. And then from there, it's onwards and it's 3 fights to a world title.
Frank
I
Warren.
think he'll take over, Josh. If if the gym talk and the sparring is to be believed, and what he's capable of against some of the very best in the world. Obviously, the apocryphal, not the apocryphal. The legendary story of him, pulling off his school uniform at 15, taking off his tie, shirt, and blazer, and getting in the ring with Joe Joyce when he was 15, only 5 years ago, and in sparring with Daniel Dubois and many others. If the truth is there, and people do speak highly of him in those sparring sessions, he's going to be absolutely incredible, and probably, in my view, world champion before Muhammad Ali was, because Ali obviously was the third youngest heavyweight champion at 22. Floyd Patterson was 21, and obviously the Mike Tyson record went a week ago, or 2 or 3 days ago. So yeah, he's very, very talented.
Absolutely. Just looking at a little bit of news that we saw this week. Olympian heavyweight, and now 1-0 professional Delicious Hore has made a very bold, but I think at the same time brave decision to retire from boxing at just 1-0 after making his debut back in April. A bit of a shock to the British boxing world, but we've all praised him for it. What were your thoughts when you saw that he'd retired?
Well, let's first of all say what a great guy he was, and obviously a Commonwealth gold medalist in 2022. So he's always got that. 39 amateur fights, only one pro fight, and decided it's not there for him. Heinously robbed by incompetent scoring at the Olympics against Armenia's David Chaloyan, wasn't he? I mean, I watched that fight 3 times, believe it or not, and did a deep analysis for the Telegraph at the time. Could not see how the judges scored that for the Armenian. Um, Absolute disgrace. Russian mother, Nigerian father, massive unit. People were talking about him being the next Anthony Joshua. Obviously, 8 years as an amateur, did extraordinarily well. But as he said, the fire has faded in him, and you can't play boxing. And he's in that 90 kilo plus division, 9,500 kilo plus division, where he can't afford to not be fully committed and have that, like I said, that fire burning inside him. He's got a first class degree in economics and management. I think it's from Aston University. So it's not like he's not got a future. And I think he wants to go into the corporate world. He said that was a long and detailed analysis. I spoke to Sean O'Toole, his manager, a couple of nights ago, who said that it was a decision not taken lightly by Delicious. What a name as well for a boxer. You're never going to forget that. Um, I remember mentioning Delicious Ori to my mother, and she never forgot his names. But at the age of 27, it's all over. Rather like it is for Nina Hughes at 42, the former WBA bantamweight champion, who's retired as well this week, saying very similar things. But it's very important that when fighters have that feeling that they recognise it, and Delicious has recognised it early, and he's taken that decision. I'm sad that he's not going to have a pro career because the heavyweight division's on fire, as you know. But it's a real shame. But obviously he's made the right decision for himself, as has Nina.
Well, we wish them both the very best moving forward and away from boxing. Just looking at some other talking points, an interesting one. Chris Eubank Sr. has said on his own YouTube channel that he doesn't want to see Junior fight anymore. But
Of
he
course.
But he has said that if Junior has one more fight, then he'll have one more fight himself. And saying he'll have an exhibition. The quote himself is, "You take another fight, then I'll fight too." What do you make of that?
Well,
Would you accept-
it's all drama, isn't it? It's all drama with Eubank Senior. I understand his point, and I do respect what he says that he doesn't want his son to weight drain down to 160 pounds and have a second fight with Conor Benn. I completely understand that because he worries about his health and he knows that they're going to have a vicious 12-round war again like they did last time. He's also probably figuring that his son made enough money from that last contest, the brilliant contest that sticks long in the memory, and crossed over into the mainstream, captures the hearts and minds and nostalgia of the British public, that there's there's no need for him to fight again. I think that's what Senior's saying. He will have earned whatever it is, 8, 9 million for that contest. But he will fight again. And I suppose what you need to ask me next is, who would you like to see Eubank Sr. fight? Um, and it would have to be Nigel Benn.
Would you still be able to see that as an exhibition?
No, I don't really care about it. They're 60 years old. Um, if they dance around in the ring and have a tickling, a kind of soft, hard exhibition bout somewhere. I mean, I don't want to see it, no. But if they did want to do it, that's up to them. But they can't do it seriously. Neither of them has fought for how long is it? 20 years plus. So or more, 30 years. So No, no, it's a statement that's posturing from the father, as if to say, "Look, I'm going to put my life at risk if you put your life at risk." So I understand where he's coming from. I don't think he really will fight, but who knows with Eubank Sr. And it just creates more drama going into the second fight.
Is that do you think that's the real reason why he said it to start building up that hype for the rematch? We've seen that there's a
No, no, he's not saying it for hype. What I'm saying is he's saying it because he thinks he's worried about his son's health. There's 2 points, as I just said. There's 2 points. He's saying it because he doesn't want his son to risk his health, weight draining to middleweight again, and also he believes he's got enough money not to have to fight again. And he wants him to get out of the game, which I completely understand. But what I am saying is that him doing this, all it does is bring more hype and promotion to a second fight between Ben and Eubank.
absolutely. Anthony Joshua is being rumored to sign a two-fight deal with Turki Alalshikh. Now, we know the two fights that we want to see in that deal. But Tyson Fury is adamant on being retired. He's been on social media. He's been seen in Monaco with Derek Chisora, enjoying a bit of 50 Cent. If it isn't to be Tyson Fury, who would you like to see Anthony Joshua take on in these next two fights?
I think they mentioned two fighters. Eddie Hearn mentioned Jared Anderson and Dillian White, didn't he? As the two in that deal. But like you say, the two-fight deal that we'd like to see Anthony Joshua in is with Tyson Fury, as you rightly say, was in Monaco in the last week. I think he's back now and training with. I saw he was training yesterday with Kid Galahad. They did 3 sessions. So just to throw the cat amongst the pigeons, I mean, obviously training session's a training session, but it was fun to see Tyson and Paris having a lot of fun, and also mixing with 50 Cent, as you say, and also Derek Chisora popping up there inexplicably. He gets everywhere, doesn't he? The Anthony Joshua against Jared Anderson, Anthony Joshua against Dillian White. I prefer him against Dillian White because there's a beef to settle there. There's some heat between the pair that's always been there, even though it's probably simmered down a little bit now. But just keep an eye on Tyson Fury because, even though he was saying, "I know I'm not ever coming back. Look, why would I come back when I've got this?" As I've said to a few other people in the last week, my analogy is when you're on holiday and you're having an amazing time, there's always that moment where you say, "Come on, love, let's just stay out here and stay permanently out here. Why do we have to go back to the day job?" And I think that's all he was feeling when he was out there.
Why do you think, Jared, do you think, first of all, do you like a potential fight between Anthony Joshua and Jared Anderson? We know the Dillian White fight would sell, but I think Jared Anderson's a bit of a name that you wouldn't put in the same sentence as Anthony Joshua right now when
I
talking.
mean, it's a heavyweight fight that you'd see Joshua as the favourite in, and it doesn't do him any favours fighting Jared Anderson and beating him. In my view, it just doesn't do anything for him. That's the problem.
Mm. And then Joshua versus White too. We know that they've tried to make that fight before. Do you feel if that fight does get made, it has to land at a big arena or stadium in the UK?
Yeah, absolutely, it does. But I think at the moment, and peculiarly, we still haven't got an opponent for Dillian White officially for June the 7th at Portman Road on the undercard of. We didn't yesterday when I looked. What day is it? Thursday. On Tuesday, there was no opponent. It was still TBA. And I think, if anything, it ought to be announced today. But my understanding is that Joseph Parker's looking at a fight with Dillian White as well, if he comes through, whoever he's going to fight at Portman Road on June 7th.
Obviously, for Dillian, I've just looked now. It still says TBA. I think by the looks of things, it's going to be a simple 8 round fight. Maybe is that what you'd expect just next week? Just something.
I really don't know. I mean, I want it to be a decent fight. I want it to be one that tests Dillian. Obviously, Dillian's looking for big fights at this stage in his career. That's where he's at with it. And he is a name, but he's had a slow 2.5 years, very slow 2.5 years. I mean, one of the opponents that was posited to me for Itauma, for example, it was Jermaine Franklin who fought both of those guys that we mentioned, Dillian White and Anthony Joshua. Just to go to backtrack a little bit, so that's potential as well.
Just last two from me here. We know July 19th is a stacked day for boxing. We've got Usyk versus Dubois. We've got Jesse Bam Rodriguez returning as well. But the most
Yeah.
recent addition, Manny Pacquiao, will be returning against Mario Barrios, also on July 19th, I believe, challenging for the WBC welterweight world title. 6 years on from his last win, 4 years on from his last fight. Are you excited to see the return of the Pac-Man?
No, no, I'm not, and I've told you this already, and it pains me to have to talk about it. And Freddie Roach even said this week that he's not desperate to see this fight, even though he's had him on the pads in the last week or two while Manny's been in camp in Los Angeles. It's a travesty that such a great fighter who earned so much money in the ring, Josh, who had such a resonance in the sport for almost 20 years and is our only eight-weight world champion, or world champion across eight weight divisions, has to come back and fight a live stud in Mario Barrios for the WBC title. He'll give him a war if he wants a war. I don't like it on two fronts. I don't like it on the proviso that he's 46 and, like you say, hasn't won for 6 years, hasn't fought professionally for 4 years. I don't like that for his health, and also meritocratically, I don't think you should be able to. I don't think you should be able to come back and just fight for a world title, having been away for 4 years. It just doesn't. It's not right. Regardless of what. Regardless of what he's achieved in the ring and in his career and the resonance he has in the Philippines as the most popular character, the greatest export, it's just wrong. It's just wrong on all fronts. Even though underlying all of this, I spent so many hours and days and weeks around Manny Pacquiao in covering, I think, at least 20 of his fights. I'm a huge fan of his, I'm a supporter of his. A Pacquiao file is what I'd call myself. I know the guy's life in detail, but I just think this is wrong on all fronts.
Absolutely. That's a completely fair opinion there. Just last one, Teofimo Lopez versus Devin Haney. It was rumored for, I think, August 15th or 16th, I read, but seems to be in doubt now after Teofimo's Twitter rampage the other night. Disappointed to see that a good fight like that is in doubt now and in jeopardy.
Well, let's see. Let's see. I mean, obviously, he's claiming that Turki Alalshikh called it off. Excuse me, I've just got an important text. He's claiming. I looked through his Twitter feed. I mean, it wasn't a rampage, but I wouldn't call it a rampage. Or has he taken some of them down or not?
I think he's deleted most of the tweets now.
Oh, okay. Well, all I saw was him saying that he's going out on his own. He's obviously. He looked to me like he was unhappy with Turki Alalshikh. Is that right?
That's what it looked like.
Yeah, that who had called the fight off. He's claiming. I don't know why. I don't really know what's going on there. It's a good fight. It's a fight we'd like to see, but we're not going to lose sleep over it. Tio's coming up to. They were going to make it at 145, weren't they?
Yeah.
A catch weight. It's a great fight if it had been made, but there's no reason why it can't happen at some point in the future.
Absolutely, Gareth. We're going to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time. Always good to catch up. I'm sure we'll
Yeah.
see you again very soon. Cheers. Thank
You're
you.
very welcome, Josh. Always great to chat to you for secondsout.com.